All right. Thanks, Rebecca. Hi. Hey, everybody. It's Annie Savati. I'm your program quality director, and I am so excited to be here with Mike Cragen. I heard him a year ago at one of our breakout sessions in the fall conference doing Dependable Strengths, and I was so impressed. I have been trying and thinking about getting him into Lafayette and anywhere else in the district that he can make this presentation. This is a sneak preview for everyone, so let me tell you a little bit about Mike Cragen. For the last 3 decades, Mike has used his knowledge of the principles and the techniques of dependable strength articulation process to help guide his own career and improve his life. Now, after 50 years of supporting and advising scores of private and government organizations on financial and computer matters, he offers his view on how to find and grow the best within you. I am so excited to present Mike Cragen. You will love this. Mike, are you there?
Thank you, Annie. I appreciate those kind of words. And I'm looking forward to sharing some information on the dependable strengths and particularly the workshops we have coming up in November and December that will be in Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. And Toastmasters has sponsored these workshops and allowed me to present this material, which I hope will be very helpful to anyone that wants to make some changes in their job, their career, or their life in 2018. So finishing strong in the fourth quarter is a good way to start, and I think these workshops will be of interest to quite a few people. So without any further ado, I'm going to get right into our agenda for tonight. One of the things we'll be talking about is what is the dependable strengths articulation process, or dependable strengths for short. We'll explain what that process is, how it came about, a little bit of the history of it, and what you can get out of it. We'll particularly look at what dependable strengths can do for you as an individual and what it can do for organizations. And we'll also go through what will actually happen in the workshop. What are the steps of the workshop? What can you expect if you decide to come to one of the 3 workshops? We'll go through that very briefly. And we'll even go through a sample exercise. We'll give you a little taste of what you'll experience in the workshop. And I think that will help you understand whether it would be helpful to you or maybe someone you know. And then we'll finish up with the workshop schedule and registration. Annie has been working assiduously with me to help schedule these workshops and find venues. And we'll talk a little bit about what we have in mind for the registration process. And as for questions, I believe we'll have time at the end to answer any questions you have. Also, Rebecca Arnett will be joining us, and she will be able to answer any questions that are typed. She'll collect the questions and decide when's the best point to throw them out to me, and I will take them from there. So that's what we have planned tonight. Annie, have I left anything out?
I don't think so. Sounds great. I'm really excited, Mike. Yay.
Okay. Well, here we go. Dependable strengths. This process was originated by a man named Dr. Bernard Haldane, who lived from 1911 to 2002. And in 1945, at the end of World War II, he came up with this process to help the military officers return to civilian jobs. From that point on, he became a pioneer of career and employment counseling as we know it today. He founded his own business, Haldane and Associates, but he sold it over 40 years ago in 1974. And he teamed up with the University of Washington to create the Dependable Strengths Project, which did a lot of research into his methods and techniques. And that went on from 1987 until his death at the age of 92 in 2002. And his work today is carried on by a nonprofit called the Center for Dependable Strengths. I've put their web address out there, and you can find a great deal of information about Dr. Haldane, his career, the different research that has been done on the Dependable Strengths process, and much more. I won't go into that tonight because I want to focus on the workshops we're offering. But I think if you have any questions or you want to follow up on anything concerning Dr. Haldane, that website will be a tremendous help. But what the Dependable Strengths process actually is, it is a series of questions and exercises that help you identify the things you do the best and you most love to do. These, as it turns out, become our dependable strengths. And it was Dr. Haldane's theory that they show up in something he called good experiences, which we'll explain later. And in those good experiences, which include things you enjoyed doing, feel you did well, and were proud of, that's where your strengths show up. So the process is going through those types of experiences, analyzing them during the workshop, and figuring out exactly what your strengths are. So what can dependable strengths do for you? It can help a number of people. If you are a job seeker, and I think anyone who maybe is trying to start out in their career and finding difficulty breaking into the job market could certainly benefit by going through the Dependable Strengths workshop. Or if you've lost a job, if your industry has changed, if the business you work for is changing or going out of business, if there's been some change in the economics, it can be very discouraging to be looking for a job and not getting any results. I know in my case, the way I got interested in this was the mid-'80s, around 1986. I was in the market for a job, and that's when I went to the library. I picked up Haldane's book, read it, and worked the exercises that you'll work in the workshop. And one of the things you get immediately is a boost of confidence. As you look back through your experiences and identify what you've done well, it does create a sense of confidence when you identify accomplishments that you've had in the past. And you can use that information as material for your resume, and you can also use it in interviews. So Dependable Strengths is a real help for job seekers. Sorry, a little technical delay here. Excuse me while I deal with this. The other one that it helps is career changers. It's not unusual for somebody to find they're in a career they don't like. One of the saddest stories I heard was there was a doctor who wanted his son to follow in his footsteps and become a physician. And so he encouraged him from the time he was young to become a physician. And then one day, the young man told his father he didn't want to be a physician. But the doctor's daughter spoke up and said, well, I want to be a physician. And so she put in the work and the time, and she became a medical doctor. But somewhere along the way, she realized that she had taken that step just to gain her father's attention and affection. And she really found that the career she was in was not fulfilling. That might be an extreme example, but often people get into careers because a parent recommended something, or it just happened to be something that was available at the time, and they find themselves somewhere down the line being disenchanted with the career and wonder what they can do. One of the things that Dependable Strengths will help you do is identify what you're best at, what you love to do, and if you're thinking about making a career change, it will provide material that can help you in that decision. Another group that it may help are people that hold what I call non-conventional jobs. People like stay-at-home moms or retirees. Of course, stay-at-home moms probably work from dawn till bedtime, but they don't pick up a paycheck necessarily. And retirees still have a lot to offer in terms of skills. So going through a workshop on dependable strengths will help them identify areas where they may want to put their talents to work. And there are a good many people that fall into that category. What I found is dependable strengths is helpful to blue collar or white collar workers. In the workshops that I've done, which have been in the last couple of years in conjunction with the East Baton Rouge Parish Library and have been open to the general public, I've had blue collar workers, men who work in warehouses as security guards. I've had accountants, lawyers, engineers. It doesn't matter. Dependable strengths will help anyone identify what they do best, and that can help them in career and job decisions. It will help you whether you're employed, unemployed, or underemployed. There are a lot of people that I meet that feel that they can do a lot more than what their current job requires. And they don't know how to move from where they are to another position. When you know what your strengths are, then you can use that to help make job and career decisions. When particular projects open up on a job, you can decide whether it's a good fit for you or not. And that handles some of the organizations, some of the individual beneficiaries of dependable strengths. Another thing is that in organizations, dependable strengths can help the leaders, the managers, and the employees. I saw a Gallup poll in the past couple of years, and one of the things the Gallup organization found was that something close to 70% of U.S. workers may be not fully engaged in their jobs. Something is missing, and they're not as motivated or as interested in their job as they should be. That's a large number. So if you're the leader of an organization or a manager, you need to be aware of that potential within your own employees. And the other thing is that when an organization is cognizant of the strengths of each other, they can form teams better. They can put people to work in the best position. They can be much more successful in what they do. I often tell the story of a little side job I had. I was assistant director at a local community theater, and the director asked me if I was handy with tools because we needed to build a set for the play. And I said, no, I wasn't, but I knew somebody who was, a retired engineer named Pete. And so I called Pete, and he came out, and he basically built our set for the play single-handedly. He did such a good job, and he enjoyed it so much, he built the sets for all the plays for the rest of the year. And the play we had, we won best set, mostly because of Pete's work. And he got an award at the end of the year at the community theaters, basically their Tony Awards, for all the work he had done. And what I think that illustrates is, had I tried to work on the set with my very less than average handyman skills, we'd probably still be working on the set. But by getting the right person in the right place, a person that was motivated and really liked what he did, everybody was happy. The director got to direct the play. I got to do whatever it is an assistant director is required to do. And the sets got built. And Pete also had a good time. He was retired, and he had a chance to put his skills and his knowledge and his wisdom to work. That's what dependable strengths really does. That's what I see when people come out of my workshops. they're energized. They get connected with what they can really do well, and they see potential to use it that maybe they haven't used in their current job, or maybe they would like to use somewhere else. Some of the different types of organizations that have made use of Dependable Strengths have included schools, nonprofit organizations, corporations, of course, veterans groups, because that's where it started. Church groups have used it so that the people in the congregation, as they have projects within the church, would be able to identify their strengths and where they might best be used on those church projects. And in criminal justice facilities, it's been used for inmates there, and a wide variety. Again, the Center for Dependable Strength website has a lot of information on the different uses Dependable Strengths has been put to. And one of the potential organizations that I think might benefit is Toastmasters. I know that I got re-involved in Toastmasters several years ago because I knew that I would need to improve on my communication skills and my facilitation skills. And so I've been using some of the members of the downtown Toastmasters as guinea pigs to test different portions of my presentation. And in doing so, it's been very helpful to me. And I managed to get a few of them interested in attending the workshops, and they did. And what I found out was Toastmasters benefited a lot from the Dependable Strengths workshop, but they also brought a lot to the workshop. Toastmasters aren't shy about talking about their particular strengths. And I think those in the workshop who aren't Toastmasters, I've always encouraged them to consider Toastmasters, because I think in addition to knowing your strengths, you have to be able to articulate them. You have to be able to go into that job interview and be able to explain what it is you do well. You have to be able to explain it accurately and honestly without over-promising or overestimating what you can do. So I'm not sure whether this could be used as a recruiting tool or maybe a tool to help some struggling Toastmaster clubs. But I thought by doing these workshops in November and December, if we can get attendance from some of the officers in the Toastmaster Club and maybe a few of the district officers, we can assess whether it might be of help to them. So that's a potential organization that may be helped by Dependable Strengths. Annie, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I do. Thanks, Mike. I have always worked hard at all kinds of things, and I know from time to time I've done jobs that I probably shouldn't have been doing, but it always feels like personally that I'm a little shy of knowing exactly what my strengths are. Will I really come away from a 5 to 6 hour workshop with knowing my strengths? Is that, I mean, I hear all these, and I know that even like in Toastmasters, we're all there because we want life to be different, we want to have some kind of change. But can this do that?
Yes, it can, and it has, and I think that really has to be stressed. Remember, this is a process that was begun in 1944, so there's well over 50 years of solid results with this. And what happens is you will come away with a written poster in this particular version of the workshop that will show your 4 major dependable strengths, and you'll have support for each one of those. You'll go through, and when I've asked people at the end of the workshop, does that actually represent who you are and what your strengths are? Typically the answer is yes. Now some people might have a little struggle with it, but most of the people that catch on to the process will be able to answer in the affirmative. You will know your strengths. You may get to know them better. You may decide to expand and develop those strengths, but you definitely will come away learning something new about yourself. Or even if you affirm what you already know, you'll be even more convinced about the strengths you have.
What about
Does
you?
that
Has this, yeah, it does help. It helps a lot to know about that sheet. But what about you? Has this changed the way you do things, or?
Oh yeah. When I first did this, I had been working as a management consultant for about 6 years. I had been working in computer and financial systems. And when I looked at my strengths, the one that came up that surprised me the most was a particular job I had worked on that involved speaking skills course that we did for incoming consultants. It was a short job that I did, and I had no speaking experience before that. I had never been in Toastmasters or anything, and yet when I got feedback from the workshop that we had, I got really rave reviews from the participants. And I think it was probably because I was encouraging and I was really concerned about them more than my skills as a speaker. Because I know that looking back, I had a lot to learn. But that's an example of something that I really enjoyed doing it. I was proud of it, and I felt I did it well, even if an experienced speaker might have had lots of pointers for me. But by knowing that, by being aware of that, when somebody came to our corporation and said, we've got a demo meeting for Toastmasters, I thought, well, that's for me. I can tie that to what I already enjoy. So it got me into Toastmasters. And as my career went on, I became more and more of a speaker about computer and accounting matters and about governmental matters, about internal control matters. So, I'll look back to that process as something that really changed my life. It helped me get jobs. It helped me advance in those jobs. And it certainly helped me financially. And I think people can expect that. It is not an unusual thing. And even today, when I decided what I wanted to do when I retired a couple of years ago, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to take what had helped me so much and put it out there so others could use it as well. Hopefully we can bring it to Louisiana and expand it here. That was my hope. So in answer to the question of did it impact me? Yes, big time.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else before we go on that? No, is Rebecca there? Did she get any questions from anyone typing them in?
I'm back. We haven't received any typed questions yet.
Okay. Well, we're going to proceed on. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of the process. I've talked a little bit about it, but these circles or ovals in the diagram are the main steps of the Dependable Strengths process that you'll see in the workshop. You'll come up with something called good experiences, which in a nutshell is something you enjoy doing, something you feel you did well, and something you're proud of. You'll analyze those experiences for your strengths, and you'll do this with the help of others. One of the participants in a recent workshop, as she went through this process, at the end of it, she sits back and says, wow, I was feeling terrible about myself just yesterday. And after going through this, I just feel great. She had identified many experiences that she had where she had accomplished some really interesting things, and she was beginning to see her strengths. We often hear about our weaknesses, what we do wrong, what we need to improve on, but it's pretty rare in my experience where we focus on what we've done well. And that's the unique vantage point of Dependable Strengths. After we get our strengths, we'll analyze them using a strengths exploration chart, which was invented by Bernard Haldane. We'll also reality test those strengths. One of the problems is if someone claims a strength that they really can't support with evidence, then we want to identify that early. You don't want that going onto a resume or bringing something up where you can't really support what it is you do well. So the reality testing of your strengths is a big help there. We'll also come up with some kind of report, and this will vary depending on the design of the particular Dependable Strengths workshop. In our case, we'll come up with a poster that will summarize 4 of your key strengths and supporting evidence for each one of those. And then, as I think I mentioned briefly, it's not enough just to identify your strengths. You have to figure out what you're going to do with them. So someone that's looking for a job, their next step may be to use those strengths in putting together a resume, or to anticipate some of the interview questions they may have. It also can be used to decide which of those strengths you're going to study and develop. And that can go on for a long time. And then you can reuse this process. I think the most surprising thing that I found was, after I had used it initially, gotten a job, I thought I was finished with it, but then I found I could reuse it. And so every year I sit down and I go through the experiences of the past year, see which ones I enjoyed the most, felt I did well and was proud of, and I'll look to do more of those. And so you're always moving your life, your career, your job in a direction that's more enjoyable to you and that you do well. So that's
so Mike, can I ask a question really quick? So the process then is ongoing. Is it like, let's see, what's the word I want to use here? You're better defining your strengths. They become more developed as time goes on?
Yes.
Is it still the same strength, but it's just you're like at a new level?
Sometimes you'll see new strengths. Sometimes you'll see combinations of strengths. Just as an example, I worked for about 12 years as an information technology auditor. And so I was looking at computer centers in state government. And after about 12 years, I had been through many of the agencies. It was starting to feel like the same. Things were changing. And I felt like as I got older, I wanted to make a change myself. But I knew that I could speak. I had been doing training. And so I moved into another position. I had been interviewing people as an IT auditor. Now I would be interviewing people as a advisor to local government. I would be doing training in local government, but on a different subject. So you may take your strengths and you may point them in a different direction that you will find more satisfying personally. And then there are people that, another example is, I worked with a fellow who was an excellent financial audit manager for an accounting firm. And he probably could have stayed within that firm and made partner, which is the highest rank in the accounting firm. But he had come from a family that was in the restaurant business, and they asked him whether he wanted to come back in and help them run the business. So he had a big decision to make there. What do? You're very capable in one realm, and now you have to decide whether you want to do something completely different. Well, it was important for him to know his strengths and what he most loved to do. Now, he hadn't been through Dependable Strengths, to my knowledge, but that's an example of a type of career decision people may have to make, maybe for a much different reason. He chose the restaurant business, by the way, and did extremely well, so I think he chose well. Another example, there was a computer consulting firm, and one of the things they told their employees in an HR brochure was, you'll have to make a decision at some point whether you want to stay as a technician working on hardware and software development or hardware and software problems, or whether you want to move into management and supervise people. And so when you have that kind of choice, you have to really know what your strengths are. Now, some people would prefer to stay working on the technical problems. They really don't want to manage people. They don't have any interest in it. They don't want to gain the communication skills that are necessary. And so their decision may be to continue the same way. But other of us, I found after I had worked as a technician, as a computer programmer in my 20s and 30s, that I did better working with clients, explaining the broader issues involved. And so I was using my communication skills more than my technical skills. So you may have a different apportionment of your strengths as you grow and move on. Does that help at all?
Yes. Yeah. Way beyond.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. So the first two steps, and this is the key to the process, and we're gonna do a little sample of this in a second or in a minute. You take your good experiences, you draw the strengths from them, you analyze them with the chart, you reality test them to see whether they're really for real. And we actually, some of the exercises here would help people in interviews where you would have to prove to an employer that you really can do it, come up with the report, and then note the follow-up goals. So let me describe the Dependable Strengths definition of a good experience. It's not like, hey, I went to a great restaurant and movie last night and I really enjoyed it. A good experience in Dependable Strengths term is something you feel you did well. You did it. You enjoyed doing it. And you know, when I say you feel you did it well, that's your own opinion, not whether your mother, father, sister, brother, teacher thought it was good. It's whether you thought you did it well. You enjoyed doing it and you're proud of it. It has to be all three. 2 out of 3 is not good enough. And it can come from any time of your life and any part of your life. And it doesn't have to be a huge achievement. It could be something small. In the case I mentioned, it was really a small experience that I had on a particular project during a 6-year period. And yet it had a big impact on me. And it's easy for us to overlook these if we don't go through and apply these criteria. So what I'd like to do here is have our listeners think back and try to come up with a good experience they've had, maybe one from the last 2 or 3 years, or really from any part of your life. If you can't think of one in the last 2 or 3 years, go back to college or high school years, or even before that. Sometimes they show up very early. And I'm going to give you about a minute or two to come up with something that you feel you did well, you enjoy doing, and you're proud of. And then I'm going to ask for a volunteer or two to tell us what they came up with. Okay, Rebecca, I'm going to start the clock, and we're going to take about 2 minutes here to give everyone a chance to come up with something. Go. Okay, I'm going to go give about another minute here. Okay, that's about 2 minutes. Do we have anyone that came up with something? Annie, were you able to come up with anything?
Yes, I actually did. And I can go ahead and share.
If you mind sharing.
Not at all. Yeah, I did the last. Go ahead.
Go ahead and tell us what it was.
Well, I did the last 2 to 3 years, but that would be Toastmasters. So I went back before that, and I remember. Are there questions you want to ask me, or do you want me just to tell you about the experience?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you. I'm going to let you tell me about what you did, and I'm going to be listening for the strengths, and I encourage anybody else listening in to listen for the strengths that you employed to do whatever the experience is you describe. And it could be mental strengths, it could be physical strengths, it could be character strengths, anything like that. And so what would happen in the normal workshop is you'd be put with a group of 4, and you'd help each other analyze these experiences to find out what strengths you use.
Oh, wow.
So why don't you go ahead and go, and the rest of us will listen intently and try to see what strengths we think you've employed.
Okay. It was a number of years ago, and I had been working for a company for about 9 years. It was time to go. It actually was past time. It was time to go, and I'd gone out and done a couple of different things, and finally decided I wanted to come back into this industry that I had left, but I wanted to open my own company. I was a little bit afraid, but I thought that I could always, if I didn't do well, I could always go back and get a regular job. This was going to be the first time that I would be on my own. And I went back in selling. It was a sale, it was not my product that I manufactured, but I was the third party. I sold other people's products. And I was started back in doing what I had been doing, and I fell into promotional products. And it was a little bit scary trying to come up with something that would be the right product for somebody else, that would work for their company. But I got really excited about it. It was creative. People listened to me. I was able to act as a guide. It really did things for me that nothing else that I had done up to that point did. And I was successful.
Okay. So you opened you took a risk. You opened your own company.
Yes.
You did sales as a third party, selling someone else's products.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes. So I had to trust to whoever that other person was that they'd do whatever it was that I asked.
Okay. And so tell us some of the other things you did. You said you were a little scared when you started.
Just a fear of failure.
Okay.
That I wouldn't do a good job, that it wouldn't work out. It was the promotional products industry is huge. You really need there's a whole association you need to get into, but before you can get into it, you have to have sold some products. So I had to do that to prove that I could succeed within that industry. And there was a time period where there wasn't a lot of money coming in, and,
So you had to manage finance?
Yeah.
You had to manage finance during that time?
Yeah. Right. It was my company, cash flow.
And you were able to do that successfully?
Yes, I did. I had a line of credit on my house, and I'm sure the bank wouldn't have been excited to know that, but I did, and I used perfectly.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna stop you there. If we had a little more time, we could go more in depth, and I would ask you questions about what you did. I wouldn't ask questions of why. I would ask questions of what you did and how you did it to understand what exactly you did. But I'm going to tell you some of the strengths that I heard. Now this is just my opinion. I may be on target or I may not. So you're the final judge of this. You may, as you think back through here, think of other strengths that I'm not going to mention or that somebody else. And if anybody is listening in and wants to contribute, they're welcome to also. But I would say it takes a fair amount of courage to open your own company. So that would be one of your strengths that I see in there. Not everybody can do that. I know I've had my own company twice. It's not an easy decision to make. You obviously have some financial skills. You manage the finances. You were, again, very courageous and brave to get a line of credit on your home. But you were able to do that successfully. And so that means you have at least enough accounting and financial experience to make it work, to run the business. A lot of businesses go under because the owner of the business is good at the design work or the particular product they're selling, but they can't manage the finances, and that can create a lot of problems. You also said that you really got excited about selling the products, the creativity involved in working with the people and acting as a guide. They listened to what you had to say in the promotional. So it appears to me there's communication and selling skills in there, including maybe listening skills. And I may or may not have all of that right now. Somebody else may have heard other strengths and other skills that I haven't listed here, but how does that sound to you in general? Am I generally on target or not?
At it too, and that's the financial skills. That was if I'm weak somewhere, but it was just part of the deal. You can't run a company without paying attention to it.
Okay, so you'd say it was the other side that you were most motivated in, not necessarily the financial side, but
right.
The selling side and the marketing and
right.
the creativity that you most enjoy.
Right.
Okay, well that's an example of what you'll do in the workshop. We'll go through those and probably more in depth, and quite a few others. We'll actually go back through a good portion of your life, identifying those, and then we'll analyze them in much more depth to figure out which ones keep showing up. So when we see the same strengths showing up in good experiences multiple times, that's the indication of a dependable strength. You can have a dependable strength is in part a motivated strength, something you really enjoy doing and love to do. You can have strengths that you're not so motivated. Somebody may be very capable of balancing their bank books or doing their accounting, and they may hate to do it. They may hate to pay the bills, yet they can do it. The danger for an employee when they get into a situation like that is if they're doing something that they're not highly motivated to do, and they do it well, their employer may keep asking them to do it until they burn out. So it's something you need to be aware of so that you can make the best decisions for your own career. So that, I think, concludes our demo. I appreciate you volunteering to share that information with us. And
sure.
I hope that you'll get a chance to pursue it some more, because as you pull different additional good experiences, you're going to see some of the same strengths show up. I'm pretty sure that's always been the pattern that we've seen.
I'm very excited about it. I very much intend to be part of your workshops.
Okay, well that's great. I hope we can get a number of people.
We will.
What we'll do now is I'm just going to go over briefly the schedule and the registration. This, by the way, is this last slide. The picture on the left is the Dependable Strengths session that I attended when I did facilitator training back in 2013 in Seattle. This was a group of facilitators. We took 2.5 days to go through the training ourselves, and also 2.5 days to go through the facilitator training. And then over on the right, this was the group after we had completed the training. That's yours truly down on the bottom row, second from the right. And next to me is Dr. Gerald Forster, who worked with Bernard Haldane while he was alive. And Professor Forster is the Professor Emeritus at University of Washington. He and two of the other facilitators who are on the board of the Center for Dependable Strengths also participated in the facilitation training. So for our purposes, we'll be offering the first workshop in Lafayette on November 11th from 9 to 4. We'll expect to have a short lunch break there, and probably we'll provide coffee and a light lunch. If somebody wants to bring their own lunch, they're welcome to. And then we'll have one in Baton Rouge, which will be 1 p.m. to 5:30 on November the 18th at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Those are the two that we have set up. In New Orleans, we have not yet determined a venue, but we've got a little bit more time there, so we will send out information on that when we have it tied down. And I believe we'll have 16 in the Lafayette workshop and 12 in the Baton Rouge workshop. The one thing I would ask, if you decide to sign up and for some reason can't make it, please let us know so we can make sure your slot is available to someone else. I would like to have these full if possible. And we will ask for a donation just to cover the cost of the refreshments, if we have a lunch, and the supplies that we'll need for the workshop. Annie, you want to add anything else about the registration, when that might happen, or when
an Eventbrite will? Yes, I will. An Eventbrite invitation will be coming soon, and I would like everybody on the calls to talk this up. This is really an amazing thing that is going to be right here in our district. I am so excited about it. One of the things that I want to say, I don't know how many of you caught it from Lance Miller when he was talking about evaluations. He mentioned that one of the most important things when you were talking to people was to tell them what they were good at, because frequently we don't really know what we're good at. And the suggestions were a follow-up, but so that the person giving the speech didn't discount what they were really good at or quit doing it. And that's why I think this is so important. I am really excited about it. I have done all kinds of things in my life, and I think I've always been looking for something special, and I'm excited to see where this takes me. We will be getting an Eventbrite invitation out, so watch for it.
And okay, anything else regarding the registration or the scheduling?
No, it'll be through Eventbrite. The one in Lafayette is going to be at the South Regional Library in the theater. And you're welcome to contact me as well.
Yeah, I've posted on the final slide, I've got my email address and yours for anybody that needs to contact us. Contact me if you have any questions about Dependable Strengths, any of the details that we've talked about tonight, or any specific questions. And Annie's address as well would probably be the one to talk to about Eventbrite and the invitations and some of those issues. I want to thank particularly the district for allowing me to put this on and for supporting these workshops. I wanted to close with just one quick thought. When I did the first pilot workshop here in Baton Rouge, it was at my house in my living room, and the first group was my 89-year-old mother, my wife, my daughter, who's a school teacher, and my 14-year-old granddaughter. It may sound like an easy group to talk to, but really they're probably as tough a group to show as anything else. And one of the things that was so interesting to me was I learned stuff about people I've known for decades that I didn't know through this. I remember when my mother started explaining that she had put together a Monopoly game when she was about 9 years old using shirt cardboard. And my daughter and my granddaughter were just amazed that somebody could actually do something like that, not have a video game or a television. So you learn things about people on your team and in your life that I think are very important, things that are important to them. And so I really encourage everybody to take a hard look at this. If you don't think you can spare the 5 to 6 hour investment, think of somebody that you know that could in Toastmasters and really recommend it to them. Thank you all for tuning in and listening, and hope we'll see you at the workshop. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Mike. It's been great. And thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Rebecca, are you there?
No
are you there?
Yes.
All right.
No problem. So thank you all for being here. Did anybody have any questions before we cut off? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close those.
Rebecca, what's next week? Rebecca, do you know what's next week on Webinar Wednesday?
Next week is the HPL with, I think, Tina Guillot.
All right.
High performance leadership.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rebecca. This is great.
Awesome.
Great.